Hi folks, welcome to Set Apart Homestead. This is Travis. The video I was going to do today, I've decided to hold off on that one because I was looking through the news and stumbled upon an article that I thought we should talk about. BusinessInsider.com, a fairly mainstream business news website, has an article posted that the Russian media, the Russians and the media over there are predicting an American civil war by the 2020 election. Since the 1st of November, it says that the news agencies in Russia have run about 30 or so, maybe more, articles talking about how they predict that we will be at civil war with one another before or at the 2020 election, which is a year away, just a little less than a year. So I thought that would be worth talking about. Now, the Russian media is just as biased and fake as the American media. So, you have to take what they say with a grain of salt. It is a propaganda piece for sure. And Business Insider says that they believe that what the Russians are doing are trying to make democracy look bad and use it as a tool to show their people that, hey, look at America. They're falling apart. They're this bastion of freedom and democracy. Yeah, I know we're not a democracy. I get it, but that's not the point today. We're a republic. Look at America. They're falling apart. It's chaos. It's because of democracy. That's why we don't need it here. We need to go back to communism. That's what Business Insider says they think is the reason for this. But there's some legitimate arguments that the Russians are making. Most of this comes from an op-ed piece that a Russian professor wrote. He was actually a Harvard professor for a while, and he's back over into Russia. And he lays it out a pretty good plan of how it will lead, that we are walking down the road, I guess you could say, to a civil war. Now, here's the thing. I think most of us, you and I, those of you watching this, probably agree with that. Probably would say, yeah, I think that's very possible where we're headed. The Russian that wrote the article says that, we're in a cultural civil war, which there's no doubt about that. I certainly don't argue with that. We're in a cultural civil war, and that it could lead to a physical civil war. He said, although it's not imminent, but it could lead to that. Well, here's the thing. In my very amateur analysis, looking back at the first American Civil War and other civil wars, maybe not all of them, but many, do we right now in our country have the ingredients for a civil war? I think we do. We have two opposing groups that are actually both groups are a minority. The extreme left and the extreme right. They're actually a minority of America. The majority of America are pretty conservative, right-leaning conservatives. But I'm talking about these radical ones, the ones that are getting out there and causing ruckus, going to these protests and fighting and stuff. And I don't agree with either of them, really. I guess I would certainly, probably find more agreeable things with the right-leaning folks, but still, I don't agree with either of them. And so you've got these two groups that are very vocal, outspoken, and violent, and they're actually a minority, and they seem to be leading this. And that's also very common in history with civil wars, that it's typically minority groups, and I'm not talking about racial minorities. I'm talking about political minority groups. Typically kind of lead the way. So you've got that. There's more, just frustration amongst the average person. You and I, we're extremely frustrated with the whole system. We're done with it. So many of the Americans, when they vote holding their nose. They can't stand who they're voting for. They're disgusted with how the system is run. They're tired of it. They want a change, but many people just don't have the energy, I guess, to get out and do anything. They have no motivation. They're just content where they're at. They hate their government, but they're content with the rest of their lives. Or they just feel that no matter what they do, it's not going to, change anything, which they're probably correct on that too. And then you have this radical, very, very radical left that is, they're hell-bent on taking over. I've said this before. They're so different than, the left side of the aisle has always been. These people wouldn't even fit in 20 years ago with Democrats. They're very radical, and a lot of their followers have become very violent, and they want to take control. They want to be in charge of things, and so are we getting to a point where we could fall into a civil war? It's possible. I think our financial markets are ripe for that. The culture. Our whole society just seems to be just at a breaking point right now. That it's this bubble that's just expanding beyond its capability, and at any moment it could burst. The poo-poo hit the fan kind of thing. So it's something that we need to. I know we're all aware of it. Those of you watching, I know you're aware of it. But do the Russians know something that we don't know? Or is it just like Business Insider says? It's just propaganda to get their people on board with, getting democracy out of their country. It's hard to say. I don't really have an opinion on this because I think it's probably a little bit of both. But I also believe that, I think we are ripe for it, and I think it's something that we need to be concerned with. And those of us, whether you're preparedness-minded folk, homesteading, Bible and Torah followers, we need to be aware of this, because I think it could go bad for us. And I know there's a lot of people out there online that are saying, well, if it happens, it's going to be the left versus the right, and the right has all the guns, and the right has all the, ex-military and ex-cops in it, so it won't be much of a fight. I don't think that's how it's going to go down. I could be wrong. I have no inside information. I have no brilliant, knowledge that that you don't have. It's just more of a gut feeling. I don't think it's just going to be like it was before, where all the farmers and all the workers leave their jobs and their farms and they go out in the fields and they fight. It's not going to. I don't think it's going to play out that way. Most of the gun owners and most of the regular people are going to fall into the right side of things, but most of your big governments, big money, big organizations, and governments that control, and private companies that control armies are going to be on the left side. So I think it's going to be a lot worse, or it could be a lot worse than what a lot of people think. They think it's not going to be much of a fight because it's a bunch of, keyboard tapping, neo-Nazis, kind of weirdos out there that, they don't know what real life is about. They have no experience in life. Their experience is based on what they know online. And then you have, your farmers and your truck drivers and your steel workers and, your oil rig workers and your vets and your ex-cops and things like that on the right side. And so it makes it look like it's a really off-balanced fight. But I don't think that's how it's going to play out. I could be wrong, but I think that it's something that you and I need to be, have our kind of ears perked on it, because, as much as I don't like following the political news system, and especially when it comes to elections, I get disgusted with it, so I just try to ignore it. But it's quite obvious that the left want in control. And I know what a lot of you are going to say. There's no difference between the left and the right. And you're exactly right. There is no difference between the left and the right. They're just two different sides to the same coin. And it's all a big cabal of control, and so it's does it really matter who gets into office? Maybe not, but I think it does. I kind of think it does. I used to not think so much that it did, but that's before we started seeing some of this just absolute radical sides on the left. Now, the other option is, or the other argument is let the left take over. Let it all crash and burn and then build it from scratch again. Maybe that is the best thing. I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas. I'm just kind of talking. I just, I saw that news article, and it kind of sparked my interest, and thought maybe I should just get on and talk about that, because I think most of you are thinking about that, or kind of aware of it and talking about it, because here we are as preppers, prepping for natural disasters, prepping for invasions, prepping for economic collapses and stuff, and what could possibly be the big apocalypse for us. It could be a civil war in our own country, something that none of us have ever experienced. And I think it could be very bad, because once it happens, the gloves are going to be off. The left side, they're going to do, once it happens, they figure, there's now no rules. We're going to do whatever we can, whatever it takes to get into power. And I think we're going to see some pretty horrific things. There's a lot of, gun-owning people on the right-hand side, but there's a lot of technology and power that I could see the left having control of. So I think it would, I think it could go down pretty bad. And, I know some of you say, well, President Trump's in office, and he's not going to let them take over, and he's not going to, he'll stand with us, and he'll rally the troops behind us. I don't have a lot of confidence in that. I just don't. So, you do you, I'll do me. But I don't have a lot of confidence in him when it comes to things like that. He's done some pretty good things and said some things that, I agree with. But overall, I don't have a lot of confidence in him when it comes to that, because he has too much of a history of flip-flopping or being, standing on the liberal side. So, anyways, so that's what I wanted to talk about today. And let me know what you think. I ask you guys and gals to leave some comments on what you think. Like I said, I'm not standing here talking about this with any type of authority, or that I'm correct in anything that I say. It could all just be Russia fake news, just spewing propaganda. But and that's, there's truths in all the news. Doesn't mean that it's all true, but there's truths in all of it. And I think there are some truths in that America could definitely be headed towards some type of civil war within the next year or two. So it's something to think about. It's something to prepare for. Does your preparedness plan include what happens if there's a civil war? How do you think that would play out, and how do you think that would affect you? Let me know what you think. So, we can maybe get a discussion going in the comment section here on what your thoughts are on the possibility of the next American Civil War. All right. Thank you guys and gals for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.